Welcome to yet another live event during the Crypto Adoption Week in the Nordics. This is the fourth one. We have had live events for Denmark, Sweden, Finland earlier this week. And today we have two live events, one for the Norwegian findings, which will last from 11 to 1 o'clock. And then there's a second live event today, which is for the Nordics. So make yourself acquainted with the different links that has been shared, because that is a separate live event. It will not be a continuation of this event. This is the third year that we have been having this Crypto Adoption Week, and we have shared interesting findings, and we have also discussed them. And there are very important partners behind this event. And I will invite three of them on stage, which is because the survey has been organized back in 2018, I think, Torbjörn, and gradually grown as we have been developing it, and also moved into a Nordic framing of it. Welcome to the partners, and maybe then you, Torbjörn, could share some information about your company, but also a little about why you have invested in this kind of intelligence.
Absolutely. So I started back in 2018. I and a lot of others thought cryptocurrency was a part of the future, but there was missing numbers. How many participate? What are the trends? So I did the first survey that was Norway only, started gathering the data, continued for many years, worked with different partners through the years. And then over the last years, been working with the Norwegian Blockchain Association, and very happy to work also alongside Firi this year. So the background for the initiative is to truly bring kind of data to the surface to show how important this industry has become and will become, and help spread awareness and education. As a business, it's very simple. We are an exchange for businesses and investors. And our unique value offering is that you get a named client manager, great pricing in combination with full native support for all the local currencies in the Nordics, and a handful of other fiat currencies.
And then we can go to you, Chuck, presenting your company and positioning in the Norwegian and Nordic market. You must, you don't have the sound, I think. Maybe there is some error on your side. Can we hear you now, Chuck? Yeah, now we hear you.
Sorry, I put on my AirPods too late. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be a part of this this year's Nordic Crypto Adoption survey across the Nordics. It's for us, it's always been a very important thing to see and actually invest in seeing the real data, where what's happening, where are the markets. For us, we started out in Norway, where we now have more than 400,000 verified users. We see ourselves as one of the largest Nordic crypto exchange out there, and by being a part of this, it's only we all can be competing against each other in this market, but being here shows that we also can work together and lightening up all this information that most people don't know about, how it's going, I agree a lot with what Torbjörn said, that it's been interesting to follow the trends over the years, but now it's important that we all don't only stay alone in our own silos, but actually share information across each other.
That's very interesting and rightfully comment. And we will also then hear from Jakob from Nordic Blockchain Association, which also is a partner of this industry. industry survey and this Crypto Adoption Week. And the word is yours, Jakob.
Thank you very much. So we're really happy to be part of this survey as well, and to put a bit of background about our association and why we find these initiatives extremely important. We are an industry organization, existed almost for 10 years now. We are people within the industry that thought it was good to have a common platform, common voice. We believe that blockchain can help create transparency, not just in trading, but like as a horizontal technology and as well privacy where needed. The way we like to operate is we operate on educational. So one of our biggest things is like help initiative like this and be part of it. But as well, we operate with working groups where we try to educate it. So we've got private-public working groups, Finanstilsynet, the FSAs, or the tax authorities again to educate them. And then we do a lot of meetups. And one of them here is our yearly conference. We operate across the Nordic region, have 50 plus company members from the region, and as well a lot of global people that's looking into it. And I think for us, the most important part is that we have things like this. We as an industry need to educate, we need to have data, we need to be able to break down some of the barriers, because at the end of the day, this is a technology sector, right? It can help create and retain talent, companies, and capital, which is really needed for our region and the times that we live in. So we're just extremely happy to be part of this. And as well, as you can see on the slide, we're going to do our 8th annual conference, once again in Stockholm, the 26th and 27th of May. And again, 1,000 plus participants, but a lot of roundtables, a lot of like closed discussion, because for us, it's about creating relationship within the industry and with the rest of the industry. So thank you very much for all the partners and everyone listening in. Really appreciate it.
Yes, and it could be also then correct to extend the information about the partners, because also Brava Finance, Kvarn, Blockpit, and Define have also been supportive of this industry survey. So there's a lot of different companies in the industry joining the work with this intelligence. Thank you very much for the partners so far. We will see you guys later in the event, Tuk and Torbjørn, for the next panel after some time. But we will then start with welcoming Vetle Lunde and Magnus to the stage, because we are now first, of course, trying to find out what is the status in Norway. We have had presentations earlier in the week, and of course now these guys know more and more, and later today we will also present a Nordic overview. But now we shall move into the Norwegian findings. And welcome to the stage, Vetle and Magnus, and just take over the control and present the findings for the audience.
Thank you. It would be great to have the slide deck up on the stream so I can start. Perfect. Thank you. So warm welcomes, everyone. This is the final day of a very exciting week of showcasing how crypto adoption is faring in the Nordics. We have seen modest growth in Denmark, very substantial growth in Sweden, sharp decline in Finland, and soon we will see how crypto has evolved in Norway over the past year. What is unique about our Norwegian data is that we have run this survey in Norway for every year apart from 2020 since 2018, which means that we have Norwegian crypto ownership data throughout 2 Bitcoin bear markets. So it gives some insights on how the general populace is handling price movements and how sensitive the Norwegian crypto owners are to prices. Generally, we believe that the movements seen in Norway reflects what you can see in other countries, dependent on the price movements, with mainly a relatively distinct tendency being that some owners are quite price sensitive. New of the year is that we have expanded the survey with 8 questions. This is made possible by our great partners in Firi and the Nordic Blockchain Association. It is great that we can get more insights on the traits of current Norwegian and Nordic crypto owners, identify some behavioral patterns, whether or not people have owned crypto in the past and currently does not own crypto, and just get a better understanding of crypto as an asset class in the Nordics. This year, as in any other year, we have used Norstat to conduct our surveys. Norstat delivers a representative national panel consisting of people in all kinds of age groups, income groups, and also people from varying locations across the country. This year we have also expanded the survey to ask whether or not people have bought or sold their cryptocurrencies, which is an insight we haven't had in the past. And we have also delved into the type of advanced crypto usage that we tend to see in the Nordics. Enough about information on the survey. You can always reach out to me if you have any questions, but let's get to the data. So what we have seen in Norway in the past year is that ownership rates have declined modestly in terms of crypto ownership, falling from 12% to 11% over the past year. This is the third year that we see an annual decline in crypto ownership figures, but it is also the year seeing the second highest ever crypto adoption rate in Norway. So it suggests that crypto has become relatively mainstream in Norway. Most of the decline in Norwegian crypto ownership rates can be explained by a substantial drop in crypto ownership rates among adults aged 30 to 39, which we will show you later in the survey. Apart from demographic criteria related to age and gender, we have also spent some time on this slide to explain other demographic traits, namely that propensity to own crypto increases alongside household income. We see a clear tendency that higher earners in Norway tend to be more open to the idea of owning crypto than lower earners. We also see that crypto is far more common in urban areas, particularly in Oslo, than it is in more rural areas, such as the northern parts of Norway. And the percentage decline in Norwegian crypto owners translates to 70,000 less Norwegians owning crypto than in the past year. What's important to be aware of in this data is that all of the surveys we have done have been performed in early in the year. So for instance, the 2018 figure discloses Norwegian crypto owners as of February 2018. This means that the relatively high number of Norwegian owners in 2018 stemmed from the bull market of 2017. Thus, declines visible in this chart should almost be read as declines from the past year. And the tendency here is very clear. Bitcoin had a very deep bear market in 2018. Back then, ownership rates declined quite substantially from 2018 to 2019. The same thing is true for 2022, where crypto ownership rates peaked at 425,000 Norwegians in February 2022, but since declined to 340,000 Norwegians by the same month in 2023. We have seen the same kind of dynamics unfold this year, which suggests that a relatively notable portion of Norwegian crypto participants are price sensitive and tend to sell crypto during bear markets.
If we break these numbers up into the different age groups, we see that the decline that Vetle mentioned here is identified towards the age group of 30 to 39, where we saw a significant decline of going from 26% to 19, and also in the age group of 50 to 59, which declined from 9 to 6%. Looking into the other ones of the youngest, from youth to 29, and also 40-49 and 60 plus, we see that the numbers have been stable in so matter. And this is a slide that we have managed to expand this year to Sweden and Denmark also, but that we have had for some more years in Norway, as we have had data available for it. And it shows a comparison between Norwegians who own stocks and shares compared to crypto. And when we look at the graphs that are on the left side, covering persons under the age of 40, while the graph on the right side is persons over the age of 40, we see that for every consecutive year since 2021, when we have data, there is more Norwegians under the age group of 40 that owns crypto compared to stocks and shares. If we look into the other side of plus 40, I normally joke a little and say, well, it's that one person who has had the crypto over the years, as we've seen it being flat for 100,000. Well, now it's two persons at least over the age of 40 who goes in there. Of course, there's more, and we've seen the growth, but we've seen at least that it's more or less, call it, stable in the years over 40. Naturally, call it the decline that we have seen a little in terms of the other ones relates to the totality of the survey that we see here. So we see also that we have quite significant higher numbers when it comes to Norwegian under the age of 40 that owns crypto compared to stocks and shares, while we saw on the other Nordic countries that it was more a closer level. So we have significant data that can identify that Norwegian youth, they prefer to own crypto compared to stocks and shares, not measured in values of the totality of what their holdings are, but one-to-one towards which asset class that you prefer to hold. And when it comes to the diversity side of crypto, that's always a challenge, and it still is. We saw in Norway last year that Norway was leading the way, where we had 7% female adoption, while that has been unfortunately decreased to 5.1% this year. If we still then compare it towards our neighbors in the Nordics that we have looked into this week, we saw that Denmark had 4.4%, while Finland had 4%, and Sweden was leading the way with 6%. So the decline might need to be seen in, call it, the totality of the quite significant drop that Vetle mentioned of the overall numbers in so matter. If we break down these numbers even more, we see that in numbers, it's estimately 115,000 female Norwegians who owns crypto compared to the 365,000 males, which equals to just a little bit more than 16% of the adult population. And as I mentioned, the decline has been on both, naturally, the male and female side, as we saw. But if we draw a classic line from the start to the top here, we see the trend going upwards, which would, in my view, be not surprising if we see a stronger growth also next year. So at least the indications based upon that we have data several years back in time shows a prediction curve that moves into the right direction. But it would also be interesting to hear from the panelists also when we move over to the Nordic panel, actually, to see how we can also address the challenges that we have in the industry in general, not only in the Nordics, but all over with regards to diversity, and how we can also get more female users into the industry. And when we break down to further analogies towards the age groups here, we see that there's in the younger groups for men and female, that is the majority that has crypto in some matter. We see still females has a little bit of the different peak of the middle, and we have seen a tendency in some of the other Nordic countries that we looked into, that it was actually also in Finland, the elderly women of 40, 50, 60 plus that was driving the market. While here we see on the male side of Norwegians is strong in so matter. And on this question that is new for the year, we asked if you had sold or liquidated your crypto assets. And we found that 6.8% of all Norwegian adults, they have at one point of time owned crypto, but they have sold all of it. We also asked the question relating to others who, of the reason why they got rid of it or liquidated it. And interestingly here for Norway, we see that the most popular answer is to realize profits. While on all the other Nordic countries, we saw that the main answer was that they actually don't believe in crypto anymore. And it's a quite significant difference here compared to the other Nordic countries. So it means apparently that Norwegians, they have a different view towards why they are selling it and not losing out on it. And it could lead to different types of things, just like we have identified in Sweden, for example, why ETFs is popular there is because of tax reasons. Why do we have a good female growth in Sweden? Maybe it could be because there has been several female podcast and webinar initiatives going on there. But maybe in Norway, we could actually relate this one back to, I would say, Vetle and K33 Research as the only Nordic firm who is actually issuing market reports and analysis on this one. So maybe, I'm saying maybe, that's one of the reasons why Norwegians more have a better overview and try to time the market better in terms of going in and out of crypto in itself. When we look further down on this one, it goes down to reasons because they have also, some have lost money, some needed money. And what we're going to talk about later today, also some say they actually had to sell crypto in order to pay taxes in so matter. So the Norwegian numbers here different a little bit compared to the other Nordic numbers in so matter.
Thank you for the flattery, Magnus. It's also worth noting that if you add the current Norwegian crypto owners and the past Norwegian crypto owners, we find that 17.4% of all Norwegian people have some kind of experience of owning crypto, either through currently owning it or having owned it in the past. This slide offers relatively few surprises. Bitcoin is the most commonly owned cryptocurrency among Norwegians. This is true across the Nordics, and it is most likely true across the globe. Bitcoin is by far the largest cryptocurrency, and we also see that ownership rates of Bitcoin and then the other major cryptocurrencies tends to be tightly connected to the market cap domination of the given cryptocurrency. So Bitcoin is the most popular cryptocurrency to own in Norway, whereas 42% of respondents indicated that they own ETH. In third, fourth, and fifth position, we find Solana, XRP, and ADA, which is also relatively popular in Norway, whereas the tendency in terms of stablecoin usage from Norwegians is that USDT tend to be the most cited stablecoin to use. And in terms of when Norwegians first bought cryptocurrencies, we see a relatively stable adoption rate of around 10% annually every year since 2020. roughly 70% of the current Norwegian crypto owners bought crypto in the past 6 years. There were some activity back in 2018 with a relatively high portion of crypto purchases, but the main growth in ownership has been seen in this decade. And then a solid question to assess the current sentiment regarding crypto is our question on whether or not the survey respondents expect to buy crypto in the future. This is asked to all respondents, and what we find is that 20% of all respondents in this year's survey expect to buy crypto within the next decade. While this is a strong number and it suggests that there is enthusiasm related to crypto in Norway, it is also the lowest percentage we have seen in terms of people expecting to buy crypto in the future in Norway since we started to introduce this question. So this shows that crypto sentiment has taken a relatively severe hit over the past year. This is most likely driven by the declining prices in the crypto market, but it shows that where enthusiasm was bubbly and it has now turned lukewarm or rather modest. Still, 6% of the survey respondents expects to buy crypto within the next year, and a further 6.6% expects to buy within the next 3 years. So as many as 12.9% of the Norwegian population expects to buy crypto within the next 3 years. And we can see that expectations of buying crypto in the future has more or less fallen across any age bracket. It is relatively stable among the youngest adults, with the percentages being stable for all 4 years covered in the survey, whereas the trend is slightly down across the, call it, older adults among 30 to 49. Whereas the expectations of buying crypto in the future has also fallen quite dramatically for adults aged 50 and older. And like we see in terms of current ownership, we see that male respondents are far more positively biased towards buying crypto in the future than female respondents are, with 29% of all male respondents indicating that they expect to buy crypto in the future, compared to 11% of female respondents. Keep in mind that this is not actual ownership data, but it does provide insights on expectations in the future. So it is a valuable data point to remember and pay attention to. And then if we decompose the data and look into whether or not the respondents has owned crypto in the past or currently owns crypto, we can see that it's a relatively close connection between current crypto owners who expect to buy crypto in the future, with as many as 78% of the current Norwegian crypto owners expecting to buy more crypto in the next decade. Roughly half of current Norwegian crypto owners expects to buy already within the next year. It is also more likely that the people who have owned crypto in the past intend to buy crypto in the future, with 50% of the current past owners of cryptocurrencies in Norway expecting to buy in the next decade. The expectations of allocating to crypto among people who have never owned crypto is far lower, with only 9.2% of current non-owners of crypto who have never owned crypto expecting to buy in the future. Nevertheless, if we add the percentage of people currently owning crypto in Norway and also assume that none of the current crypto owners sell crypto in the future, we could end up in a situation where roughly a quarter of the Norwegian population owns crypto within the next decade.
And when we are looking into the preferred market trading places of Norwegians, I would like to start this slide to say this is not science. This is not exact numbers. This is not, call it, the market share of the numbers of customers and clients that the different exchanges listed here has. This is just the responses that we have received from the persons who has participated in the survey. So this indicates clearly that it has done for many years that the Firi is one of the preferred. And like said, here you can use several ones. So it's not like you're trading only one place, but you can use several ones, both domestic and also international ones. But again, Firi with 47% is clearly leading the way, approximately same as last year, where they had 46%. Other Norwegians here, we see that NBX is at 1%, down from 3% last year. Bare Bitcoin had 6% last year, down to 1% this year. Well, also, as an anecdote, it's, I would say, with the crypto heart, good to see that Bitmint is here represented with 2% as being currently, to my knowledge, the longest living, currently existing crypto exchange in the world today. Being established by Mr. Sturle Sunde back in 2010. So that's also a little historic moment that Norway can put on their list. But when we see on the international side, naturally, Coinbase are normally a large actor, but still they are declining in Norway, going from 18% last year down to 14%. And Binance also from 15% last year down to 12% this year, and where we have seen that they have close to more than between 20 and 30% of the market in the other Nordic countries. So this is where Norway also differentiate themselves a little. When we look into the DeFi ecosystem, we see that that's down on the DEX side of 3%, which was equal to around what it was last year as well, and normally where it lays. The ETPs and ETFs, the exchange-traded products and funds, they have been reduced from 6% from last year in Norway to 4% now. But nevertheless, if we look into the typologies surrounding the facts of the powers of the Norwegian ecosystem, we see that that is actually quite interesting in terms of that for the second year in a row, Norwegians, when we add all the numbers together, prefer to actually trade crypto on the local Norwegian exchanges compared to the international one. And that gap has been even larger this year compared to last year, where we have approximately 250,000 Norwegians who prefer to use Norwegian exchanges, while 230,000 prefers to use the foreign ones. And I could also mention here on this one that we had quite a few respondents, even 20%, who is opting out in terms of not choosing to say where they were doing their trading. So the decline in itself from last year can also be led and reverted back to that fact of who has answered towards the questions on the survey.
Another interesting question to ponder is how much value Norwegians tend to invest in cryptocurrencies. This question is also only directed to the current owners of cryptocurrencies in Norway, meaning that here we are looking at data from a subsample of the survey. So the statistical validity is slightly less valid than for the bigger questions, but it's still interesting to decipher the numbers and assess some sort of trend based on it. What we clearly can see is that ownership rates of less than 1,000 kroners and up towards 10,000 kroners in crypto is by far the most common ownership rates of crypto among the current crypto owners. But still, we see a substantial 44% of the Norwegian respondents indicating that they own crypto for more than 10,000 Norwegian kroners. Like we did last year, we have followed a methodology used by Norges Bank in their crypto survey to identify an estimate of the Norwegian crypto wealth. I have written out the explanation of how we have made this estimate, and I can gladly contribute with data if that's interesting. But what we have found is that the current Norwegian crypto wealth is estimated to 39 billion Norwegian kroners. Last year's estimate was 61 billion Norwegian kroners, so we have seen a 39% decline from last year's figure with that estimate. That being said, these estimates are extremely vulnerable to outlier results in the above 500,000 Norwegian kroners bracket, so it should always be interpreted with a little grain of salt. And then if we convert these percentage numbers into absolute numbers, one interesting point comes to show. Ownership rates of crypto from 10,000 kroners and upwards is relatively stable in absolute terms compared to last year, whereas the major decrease in amount of owners holding crypto for less than 1,000 kroners and less than 10,000 kroners is far more substantial. So this implies that potentially a lot of the withdrawals from crypto markets seen in Norway relates to small holders selling their crypto exposure, whereas the larger crypto owners have tended to stay and withstand this relatively rough bear market which we are currently experiencing. And then it's also interesting to assess the wealth distribution of Norwegian crypto owners. While there are many people owning crypto for small sums, the amount of crypto wealth held by these many crypto owners is very negligible compared to the few big crypto whales. These are our benchmark estimates based on the median value approach, and leads us to our current estimate of Norwegian crypto wealth to 39 billion Norwegian kroners. When we compare our estimate of Norwegian crypto wealth to wealth distributions in other asset classes, a relatively interesting pattern emerges. So a very common tendency across all kinds of investable assets is that the likelihood that you have a higher invested amount in these assets increase with age. So the older you are, the more wealth you tend to have in, for instance, equities. Given that crypto is such commonly owned by young adults, and also that this has been true for many years, also in years where Bitcoin was far lower valued than it is today, a relatively interesting wealth distribution has emerged across age brackets in terms of crypto wealth. So what we have identified is that generally the youngest adults tend to have the most crypto wealth, whereas we also see relatively substantial amounts invested among adults aged 40 to 49 and 50 to 59.
And finishing off with the last question for the survey, which is also a new one, we have asked which crypto products do you use while dealing with cryptos? And naturally, like we've seen in other Nordic countries, the buy, hold, sell mechanisms of crypto is the most popular. But what we have also seen in Norway compared to the other Nordic countries is a very significantly high number when it comes to staking. And we have a little hypothesis that might be relating to the different type of services and products that the Firi has been offering. So it'll be interesting to hear from Tuke afterwards his thoughts and views surrounding that one. But going further down on the list of the different type of products, we have already heard from Vetle mentioning stablecoins is a part of the ecosystem naturally here. We see also that the respondents in the survey, they prefer to store their crypto assets at centralized exchanges, i.e. with a custodian, with 6% compared to self-custody, which is only 1% in some matter. Meme coins is also represented here as, call it, an entry point into crypto, which we have seen from other Nordic countries as well. But also we see Norway has a percentage actually on loan products and others. So it appears that Norwegians, like we have seen for several years when we have measured also DeFi maturity, that Norwegians are playing around with further parts of the ecosystem that is not only the buy, hold, sell. When we look into the typically crypto users in Norway, we have split them into the micro holders, the small holders, the mid-tier holders, and the larger holders of so. The micro holders has typically less than 10,000 Norwegian crowns in their portfolio, and that represents 56% of all Norwegian owners. They use 0.7 products on average, and naturally because several have opted out and not said they want to reveal which products they are using. The ones who has answered here, they mostly buy and sell there, while also, like I mentioned, are interfering with staking and DeFi and meme coins. The mid-tier holders, they have a portfolio normally around 10,000 Norwegian crowns to 100,000 Norwegian crowns, and represents 26% of the owners. They use 1.5 products on average, and staking is really strong there also with 35% and the highest in all of the Nordics. Meme coins also represented here, and also a very high degree of NFT usage compared to the other Nordic countries. The large ones, the more closer to the whale side, they are holding a portfolio of more than 100,000 Norwegian crowns, and that represent approximately 7% of the owners. They use close to 2 products on average, and again, staking is highly represented. Stable coins naturally going in and out of different cryptocurrencies, and also, like I mentioned, lending and loaning products are popular here also. They are not that heavily represented when it comes to meme coins. NFTs is way passé, and it's not per se the strongest usage of the DeFi ecosystem they have answered, but still lending products could be interpreted into the category. So we will put it into the totality of the maturity that Norwegians are playing actively surrounding the ecosystem of cryptos that is more advanced than just buy, hold, and sell. To summarize and wrap up all the numbers together, we find that approximately 500,000 Norwegians have crypto assets, which equals to 11% of the adult population. We have a split between 60% male and 5% female in the adoption site. And the total wealth of all Norwegians together are close to 40 billion Norwegian crowns. And looking into the crystal ball for the future, we see that we have estimately by 2036 could have 20% crypto owners in Norway, which equals to around 900,000 Norwegians.
Thank you very much, Vetle and Magnus, for a very insightful presentation. We have had a question from the audience whether these reports will be available, and just to be sure, they will be available tomorrow on Friday. All the 5 surveys from the different countries and also for the Nordic altogether. I'm just having one question for you guys, and it's interesting that one of your new questions give insights into the pattern of investors and maybe into their minds, because when you are reading the crypto media or X or whatever, you think that everybody is moving into the crypto space, and then they get to be holders or hodlers, which is also a way to say it. While now you have a finding that 6.8% have sold. And there was also a discussion the other day that it was not because of churn or because they didn't necessarily don't believe in it, but they had made a profit. and also your findings about what they could be able to invest in the next couple of years, Vetle, could indicate that they can come back, and maybe they will come back even quite soon if the market turns.
Yeah, so like any other asset, you can both buy it and sell it. And in Norway, 6.8% of the population has in the past bought Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency and since sold it. It's slightly less than we see in the other Nordic countries. But what it shows is some have been willing to participate in the market who are currently not participating. And then if we decompose the data as we did, we also see a higher inclination among this cohort to, again, interact with crypto in the future. So while some lost faith in crypto, some intend to return. And it is quite interesting to note that as many as 17% of all Norwegian people have owned crypto or owns crypto currently. So it just goes to show how common crypto has become in the both Norwegian and also Nordic economy. Although size is not that big, but the commonality of owning it is relatively broad.
Anything to add on that one, Magnus?
No, I copy perfectly well what Vetle said here, and also on your analysis, we found it interesting to include this question, and hope to have, call it, even more significant data over the years to come when we can see, call it, the pattern trends of SOMA.
Okay, thank you. We will also get you guys back, but you will stay on, Magnus, because we will also dig into the tax issues in this industry. And we welcome Marius Johansen, fagansvarlig for kryptovaluta in Skatteetaten. Welcome, Marius.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Maybe you should prepare some insights in the beginning, Magnus, and then we can have a 5 minutes talk or something after that.
Absolutely, Morten. If you also are kind to bring up the slide, we have looked into Norwegian numbers because Marius and the team here, they are kind enough to share the data. Our neighbors are not that necessarily friendly when it comes to the authorities, so they are more secretive when it comes to their numbers. Otherwise, we would have brought this one alive. But it's also down to, call it, how taxes are reported in the different jurisdictions on the tax return. So in Norway, we split and separate and have our own brackets. So that's why we can break it down to the numbers of person who has reported their crypto taxes and also the wealth in itself. So what we see in general, as this graph shows, is the numbers of persons in Norway who has reported taxes for their tax years. So when it says tax year 2024, that's down to the tax return you have sent in, the latest one, and we will have tax year 25 now when we hand in the annual tax return in end of April. That's so this is the latest numbers we have. So what we have seen over the years here is that we have grown from 8,000 slowly up to 15,000, 40,000, going to 50,000, going closer to 60, and last year where it was 73,131 or something, I believe that was the total number. But when we look into then our estimates that we have found now with regards to just hearing Vetle saying we're close to 500,000 who has crypto in Norway, then it appears that this number has a huge gap in so matter. But if we then go over to the next slide, Morten, and look into the numbers of facts that Vetle also mentioned here. So we see on the left side that what the tax authorities in Norway had registered as Norwegians voluntarily declared on their tax return for 2024, for the tax year 2024, was approximately 40 billion Norwegian crowns. While we had on our, of course, rough estimates that Vetle also presented, approximately 61 billion Norwegian crowns. So then again, if we take into the concern of the person who reports that we have found are actually the ones who reports in a larger percentage of the totality of the value, since they are larger holders. We see that our estimates on this one is that approximately 66% of all the estimated crypto wealth in Norway is actually reported in. So that turns sort of saying the graph a little around compared to the low percentage that it appears to be from the last graph, which showed only 13%. So in this matter, I think it's also important to take into concern that there are also lots of Norwegians, de facto, that we have seen that has crypto assets for less than 10,000 Norwegian crowns and even less than 1,000, and they might not report because they are not even aware of it. So in this view, it would also be interesting to hear a little from Marius, as you have carried out your own survey on this area, an extensive survey where you didn't only have 1,000 respondents, but I guess you have asked minimum 10,000 people, since you had 1,000 persons who had crypto assets also. So it would be interesting for us to hear, call it, your views on this, and also with regards to if there's any other findings in the report where you could see similarities to the even more accurate survey that you have done.
Yes, please just add your thoughts about this, Marius, and your information about what your own findings can say.
Thank you. And I can first start with sharing some new numbers with you guys, because we have been looking into the tax return for 2024 again, and now we can see that the last numbers are that around 81,000 people have said that they have had crypto in the tax return. So the numbers are still increasing. So that's really good. And
so it's breaking news today?
Yeah, that's breaking news. So that's good. And what you can see as well is that your findings are interesting, and they align with the knowledge that the Skatteetaten holds. Because we did a survey like this last year, and I think we asked around 10,000 people if you have crypto or no or yes, and around 1,000 of them said yes, we have crypto. And we asked some more questions to them, and we can see the same as you can see here, that most of the people have smaller amounts in crypto. I think most of the Norwegian people own crypto for less than 50,000 kroner, and we can see the same in the tax return. And we can also see that the people that have most in crypto, they're also really good to comply with the tax regulation, as you say here, Magnus, that most of the biggest sums related to wealth in the crypto holdings, they are actually reported in the tax return. We see that the gap between people that owning crypto and reporting it in the tax return, that relates mostly to people with small amounts in crypto, as we can see. And for them, there could be knowledge about the tax regulation. That's the reason why they're not reporting, or they're thinking that the numbers are so small, I don't need to report it, or maybe they think that it's too difficult to report it because it's a lot of work for small numbers. So I think all of your findings are similar to what our findings was in the survey we did last year.
But what is then your work related to this gap, which is still there, and what is the plan going forward when it comes to reporting?
What we are working most on now is that we are, of course, trying to increase the reporting. And as we are talking about later, we are going to tell you more about something called Kaupr that will make it easier for us to increase the reporting. And I think the most important thing for us is to actually get out information about taxation of crypto and try to make it easier for the owners of crypto to actually get it in the tax return, because in Norway, then most of the information about the salaries and everything is pre-filled in the tax return, but crypto is not pre-filled. So the owners have to do that work by themselves, but that can be pretty complicated if you have a lot of transaction. And I think the most focus we have is to try to make it easier for the taxpayer. And I think we're going to talk more about that later.
Yeah, and you have also in your taxes, you have had, what did you call it? You're inviting people to comment on special questions to help them when they are filling out the tax report.
Yes.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, and you will be participating in the panel later, Marius. So And then, as you say, we can discuss that and other types of findings more. Now we will move on with the industry view of this report. And I will just use my time to get the people on board. And also you, Magnus, will get back a little later together with Vetle. The first thing I thought that I should then ask the panel about is your takeaways of the report. What is the headlines in your view, either in the general thought or that is especially interested on what your company's position is in the market? Maybe you could start, Tuk.
Yeah, no, it's the results from this report shows the work that we have been doing in branding cryptocurrencies, making it safe and simple for users to onboard and actually buy and own cryptocurrencies. So it's nice to see that the numbers for ourselves at Firi has been high for 2 years in a row, and yeah, no, it only shows that that a lot of people has onboarded on cryptocurrencies, and based on the numbers that we have internally, it's also nice to see that many of these in crypto investors has been using Firi to be the first gateway into cryptocurrencies. Yeah, that's my initial raw sentiment for your question.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tuk. And maybe we could hear from you, Torbjørn. And it's important to reiterate what Magnus and Vetle said before, that the different crypto exchanges have different target groups and different types of investors. So this share of markets that was shown before is not necessarily a fact when it comes to for instance, the case 33, which is mainly working on higher network individuals and companies. Just short information. But Torbjørn, please give us your takeaways.
I think the main takeaway is very clear. It's still going strong. So the market fluctuates over time. Some sell. Appetite to buy in the future fluctuates a little bit from year to year. But the trend that this is continuing to grow, despite kind of these volatilities from year to year, seems to be very much intact. So I think that's obviously the main headline. It's still around 500,000 Norwegians who own this. And it also makes it very clear the gap between the adoption among individuals and representation in politics, for instance, because you can't find a single politician in parliament who would be willing to kind of step up and talk even about crypto. And having so many niche cases represented in parliament and crypto being so widespread, that gap is the next frontier I think we need to close. In terms of the exchanges, exactly as you said, I think what's very interesting to see is the estimated wealth and also the distribution there. It shows that while there are a lot of smaller players, there's also a massive skew where the few commands the biggest and deepest pockets. And those are the ones we optimize for in K33.
And then to you, Stig.
Yeah, I think there's a few kind of takeaways there, but I think like the most most important takeaway for us and us as Norwegians are, even though we also have a lot of catch up to do with Tuk and the amazing job Firi has done with basically the user experience and making crypto adoption mainstream in Norway. You can see that there's, even though you have Firi as a big actor, the competition in Norway is actually working, because you see that in compared to the other countries, you have a much more kind of local use of us as crypto exchanges. for Norwegians compared to the other Scandinavian countries. And I don't think you can only attribute that to it being easier to do deposit and withdrawals with Norwegian banks. Of course, I think a lot of that is because of us as actors in the industry have been behaving well for many years as well.
Okay, Torkel, what is your takeaways?
Well, I think I'm going to take quite a different outlook than Torbjørn and actually say that this is a pretty sad sight of stagnation, if you ask me. So me and my co-founder at DB, we founded the company. Or we didn't found the company, but we quit our last jobs at more or less the first peak of 2021. And if we adjust for inflation, Bitcoin is. I don't even think Bitcoin is up compared to April, May 2021. Bitcoin has been among the cryptocurrencies doing better, right? You can compare to Ethereum and lots of other more fringe altcoins, and things have been even more depressing. And in a way, the last few years just hasn't delivered at all, if you ask me. Both when it comes to price appreciation, but also when it comes to growth for Norwegian companies. To be completely honest, as we all know, Firi has been doing great, but it's a very small industry, and it's been very hard to. We can all see the public numbers, right? The only company that has been able to actually make a substantial dent when it comes to revenues and profits and scaling up the organization is Firi. It has been really hard for basically anyone else. So I think this report in a way confirms my slightly depressed take that Bitcoin has been performing horribly, and I think the entire Bitcoin complex has been performing horribly. And not to make this too long, but in a way I get it. Okay, price has been doing terribly. If you look at Trump, it's mostly about enriching himself personally. What do we actually have to? Where's the actual real excitement? We had El Salvador a few years ago, didn't really turn into anything exciting at all. And I don't know. Bitcoin will have to get its shit together. I think in the pretty close future, if this is going to actually lead somewhere exciting.
One follow-up question with you, Torkel, because when you also see the people that have taken a profit and went out of the market, is there also a different view of, for instance, Bitcoiners than we have had for 2 or 3 years ago, that it's not necessarily this hodl habit that we thought that people had? Or what do you see in your client base?
Well, what we have been seeing is of course a lot of panic selling on the way down. But in a way, what's more concerning, and I think this is also seen in the broader market, we've seen several large ancient holders who have had Bitcoin for 10 years sell substantial amounts of Bitcoin, even during this downturn, because they have real life commitments where they want to live life a little, right? And in a way, I almost take that as a sign of resignation. And if Bitcoin suddenly does extremely well over the next 12 months, and we're at 200K in 12 months, this will all look very, very silly. But right now, I find this outlook to be slightly bleak, to be completely honest.
You have a comment on this, Torbjørn?
Yes, so I think what we're seeing right now is that the get rich quick, the investment part of Bitcoin, we've seen some waves of that where it used to be really hard, but the market was really small. So you had these extremely explosive kind of bubbles or cycles. And I think what we're seeing right now is that part kind of being dampened. And it gave a false impression of adoption going faster and having come further than what I believe the underlying adoption train. Like when I speak of the underlying, in the case of Bitcoin, I speak of the potential of emerging as a future global reserve currency, as becoming like a deep infrastructure. That train, if we're still on that train, I think we are, but I think that is a much slower moving one. And what we're seeing right now is that kind of all of the euphoria is gone. And I think a lot of the optimists, I was going to say Bitcoiners, but a lot of others misinterpreted a lot of what had to do with number go up as a broader kind of drive of the transition to a Bitcoin or crypto economy. So we probably overestimated some of those initiatives as meaning more than they did at the time, and underestimating how long time the infrastructure play takes to mature, and how quickly like the popularity of which asset to invest in can switch. I mean, if its number go up, then gold was very popular until fairly recently, and we saw this also with treasury companies last summer, where the long-term view Bitcoiners suddenly invented their own ICO bubble in the form of treasury companies ballooning on the stock exchange for quick wins.
Stig, you want also to comment on this issue?
Yeah, and I think it's like, even though it's, if you kind of only look at the price action and the price movement on kind of the cryptos, that what is basically defined as cryptos, it can be quite depressing. I think you should kind of zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture of because this is like crypto adoption, right? So it's not all only about investing and getting profit and gains on owning crypto. It's also about utilization and how to use it. At least what we see is that you have more and more kind of businesses, corporations looking into using stablecoin into payment into their ecosystem. Also, when you then kind of look into, or when you consider that actually being adoption of stablecoins, you also see that you'll have other kind of moves within that, where you have yield and you basically have starting to actually have decentralized finance, or at least access to it. So we definitely need to consider that aspect as well when you kind of talk about crypto adoption. And it's also about, and then people don't think about that they kind of own or use crypto necessarily. Visa today is already using USDC for settlement on card transactions. So it's already being used.
Tuk?
Yeah, I think it's one thing that's important to say, that it's not that the market has stagnated. It's more like the activity has slowed down based on what Torbjørn said. We had a lot of thoughts where the market was going. It was not up only, apparently. But this is also like a natural shift after like a strong growth. 2024 was a great year in the crypto currency, especially Bitcoin. And all the regulation, deregulation happening overseas. But the thing that I'm sitting left with is, there has never been so much talk about cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin on mainstream than now. We see that banks are talking about it. They talk about infrastructure. They talk about the stablecoins. They talk about tokenization, and they actually offer them to the clients. This is what we back in 21. I still remember even 2017 very vividly, that everybody was saying institutionals are coming. It took 7 years before they came, and we're still here. We're still early. So I think it's important that we have it back in our minds that even though the market has stagnated, the infrastructure play is still happening right now. And yeah. It's for us. It's we still see a strong growth of new customers at Firi, even though the market is falling. But this always happens, in a sense, when the pricing markets are going slow, because people are positioning themselves as any other company are doing in this type of market. So, yeah.
What we are trying to do in Kaupr is try to find out the stories of today, if you understand. And what we see is that there seem to be two types of news flows, as you sort of are saying. We have this market depression or bear market or whatever, and very often also a macro play related to war, related to index or different types of policies from the American government, while there is a steady flow of news related to stablecoins, related to tokenization. And even, for instance, the two major stock exchanges in the States, they are experimenting or piloting towards tokenization of stocks together with partners. And also you in Norway, Torben, you have been working also with asset managers, also with other types of companies. So is this institutional wave coming as you see it?
Internationally, it is, and we see the offerings from the big financial institutions globally. I mean, the Bitcoin ETF is among the ETFs that BlackRock makes the most money from out of all other ETFs, as an example. In the Nordics, the institutions are not really coming. So they're joining consortiums, they're piloting, there's absolutely interest and some know-how within some of the institutions, but they're very slow moving. Institutional clients, so some of the corporate clients of these institutions are moving. And they're either going directly to crypto native providers or finding services outside of the kind of Nordic financial institutions. I see this as a big risk because Nordic financial institutions are really risking losing client relationships to international competitors at a very point in time where infrastructure makes the home bias lock-in weaker. And this is not only from stable coins and kind of public blockchain rails, but also from kind of pan-European efficient payment rails, like other infrastructure changes that has come, more shared standards. So yes, institutions are coming. The numbers are very clear, but the Nordic institutions, I mean, look at DNB. They had their first product ready. They built things in-house, and then politics make them hit the stop button. As far as I know, Setskog Høland Sparebank is the only Sparebank owning, or only bank in Norway owning a little bit of crypto. They did it the right way, in my opinion, which is to open an account and buy a little bit to get first-hand experience, but all of the others are sitting on their hands so far.
Yeah, I think it's still a pilot or a part of a discussion to make yourself acquainted with, and that's the way to do it, perhaps. What about you, Tuk and Firi? Because you have now recruited a team of people that are skilled in institutional finance, fintech, and does it mean that you are gearing up for that market? May becoming more important than the retail part, or?
Yeah, so that's right. I did recruit some key functions into the company and also into my leadership. And it's regarding how we see the markets are going forward. Retail has been and will be still our strongest area of expertise, but we see that the institutionals are beginning to ask questions, like requesting for more information. It's you see governments doing this, you see private institutions are reaching out. So for us, it has been a long journey to position ourselves to be in this position to actually have this type of discussions, but it takes time. It's not like retail where you can sign up in a matter of minutes and you're off to go. When you go to institutions, the sales cycle takes like 12, 18 months at best. So, but yeah, I do believe that institutions are coming. I'm talking to a lot of them. So that's why we are positioning Firi at the place that we're doing right now.
Is that also why you now are moving into Sweden? Of course, you are also, of course, launching your retail part, but Sweden is the capital market of the Nordics. Is that where you will find your future institutional clients first and foremost?
Yeah, I think Sweden will be an interesting market when it comes to institutionals. It's no secret that it's much more institutional money there compared to Norway and Denmark. But yeah, it might be a part of the strategy. That's right.
Okay, you are still waiting for the MiCA license, so you're a little careful about how much you are saying. That's okay. Stig, you are taking a little other type of positioning, perhaps because you are investing a lot in stablecoins and you have been working also on cards, payment cards, and you also have said earlier that you wanted to be a crypto bank. Is that still on the table?
Yeah. So you're right. We have been working a bit on the broader product aspect, and also, like you said, we are an issuer of a US dollar stable coin, and we're launching a euro stable later this year, and also a Polish zloty together with a Polish payment institution that we have a partnership with. And we are also working on a multi-currency Visa card that is basically linked to the stable coins. So we are definitely working with payments and stable coins. And like you said, we have had a known strategy for many years to become a digital asset bank. We have now started the process of applying for a banking license, specialized banking license in Latvia. And the reason why we're doing it there is that we have local presence there, but also by having a license within that EU country, we'll also take advantage of bilateral agreements that EU makes with outside of the EU, which we don't benefit from being a EEA, ES member or in the EU. So we have started that process, and what we will basically do is we'll definitely focus on custody, but also on loans where you have digital asset as collateral.
This is what often have impressed me about the Norwegian market, because all you four guys seem to take some different positions in the market, either regarding target groups or products or offerings, and that is also the case with you in Bare Bitcoin, Torkel. And have you moved into institutions as well, or what is your view about that target group, and what is your view about Bitcoin as payment?
Well, I guess defining an institution is always hard. If it's about having an organization number and being an aksjeselskap, then we have lots of institutions as clients as well. But just a quick comment on I just want to pick up a few things here. So, okay, what's the headline positive things, right? We have stablecoins. That's great. That's 99.9% dominated by USD. I'll just be super honest here to you, Stig, and everyone else considering doing stablecoins. Any non-USD stablecoin is completely dead on arrival. Don't even bother. And if you want to do a USD stablecoin through MiCA, it's also completely dead on arrival because the rules are just they're brain dead. They're beyond brain dead. They're horrible rules. There's literally not a single good reason to use a European-based stablecoin instead of a US-based stablecoin. Okay, so we have stablecoins, basically resulting in Tether printing insane profits. We have the ETF resulting in BlackRock printing insane profits. You know, this is all fine and dandy, but how does that actually take us closer to getting anything done, which was the original intention and vibe and purpose of Bitcoin? And also just like Bitcoin payments, it's not going to happen. It's simply not going to happen. It might be even less realistic than a European-based stablecoin. Bitcoin payments have been around for what now? 17 years. UX is still beyond horrible. It's beyond awful. It's never going to be great. We might have stablecoin-based payments, but it's going to be USD stablecoins from the US. So, so by the Bitcoin, I think we're doing decently. Like if you adjust for the horrible market performance, I think we're doing decently. I think we're taking market share, and I think we're continuing to build out a good product. But I think the ugly little truth is that the EU is only going to get more horrendously, stupendously idiotic by the day. Compliance is just going to get more and more expensive unless the market, Bitcoin in particular, Bitcoin is the only thing that matters in the end. Unless the market and Bitcoin gets better, we can all just go home and pack it up. Like that's my totally unfiltered, non-circle jerk attitude to this. Bitcoin really needs to get its shit together and present an interesting, viable narrative for the future.
Right now, I should wish I was a journalist sitting on the side and just writing up the headlines from Torkel. But we will add some more insights also, taking back Vetle and Magnus and ask them what the other industry players have been saying. Is that in line with what you are thinking, or what you want to comment on that? Vetle first.
Yeah, I must say I concur with Torkel's very dark and gloomy picture of crypto and also even Bitcoin's performance of late. It's very easy to get like recency bias when you look at prices, how prices have behaved, and like what that might imply for Bitcoin onwards. But fact of the matter is that Bitcoin has traded with the price for 16 years. What you have seen in all our surveys and what's very common among crypto owners is that they tend to be young adults. Young adults become older adults with more responsibilities. They become naturally incentivized to sell some Bitcoin. This dynamic happened last year. It happened in 2021, in 2022. It happened in 2017. It's a completely rational reaction to huge returns on an asset. What has happened amid Bitcoin's like bear market in the past half year is that several Tier 1 banks have launched financial advisory related to crypto. They have also communicated intentions to launch spot trading of crypto. This has been enabled by a very positive stance from the US president, who obviously also behaves in his own self-interest, but it also aligns with the industry's interests, and the market has become far more liquid than what was the case a few years ago, which has also enabled long-time Bitcoin holders to sell over an extended duration of time at both prices of $100,000 and also prices at $80,000, prices that for many was like unimaginable a few years ago. And while the narrative of Bitcoin as digital gold is compelling and Bitcoin shares the same attributes as gold, being scarce, Bitcoin is only 17 years old. Gold is 5,000 years old. It doesn't have the same kind of distribution effects of assets, of owners being incentivized to sell during strong pushes higher. So Bitcoin needs to like have some time of ongoing distributions on during price rallies, and it's just naturally susceptible to those kind of movements that we have seen in the past year. I am very positive on the industry going forward, and I also expect that we will see a lot of initiatives from banks in the Nordics as well, even though we lag Central Europe and UK and also the US. So yeah, I would like to add a few cents on a more rosy picture.
A short comment from Stig, which was related to Torkel's rant.
Yeah. So I just have to kind of comment on, especially about the kind of adoption of stablecoin. And I think it's you might as well have like a stablecoin adoption week as you have a kind of crypto adoption week. Of course, it's two different things. And what we see as actually an issuer of a stablecoin, and also an e-money token, which is it's liable under MiCA, we see that a lot of actually large European companies, corporations, ecosystem with billions of euro actually in transaction volume turnover per year, they are exploring models now to have stable coins, euro stable coins, in their payment rails, paying vendors, accepting payments from customers. So it's like it's not if it's gonna come. It's like when is it gonna come? That's like 100% sure.
Magnus, you have the opportunity to comment on what the guys have been discussing.
Well, I think we should bring out a case of beer and, like Stig said, set up a whole session on this one and have a sensible discussion. No, I mean it in a totally serious way. That that's a topic that you could discuss for 3 full days, and even we hadn't, to call it, scratched the surface of how that will evolve. So I agree with Stig that has a place and a role, and we discussed this one in the other broadcasts also, with specifically Sweden and other places, of the role of the ecosystem of stablecoins growing. However, just like Stig knows, we are more or less at year 0 or 1 when it comes to this one, but it's growing significantly fast. So I'm also positive towards that ecosystem. But again, a totally different animal than if we look into BTC per se in itself. That's a totally different thing. But if we break down things, like it was also mentioned here as an anecdote, I cannot recall now whether it was in Sweden or in Finland, that someone compared the market of, call it, is crypto actually going crypto as totality, going mainstream. And what is mainstream? Well, then compared it to paddle, for example, where it was several thousand Swedes, but still even much more. So just for the fun of it, I looked into Norway, and there we have, at least according to 3-4 different AIs, 390,000 people in Norway who is playing football. Even crypto then appears to be larger than that. If you look into paddle, it's 150,000. Larger than that, tennis, 41,000. That's active people. So we need to put things into perspective and also separate things like the different parts of the market that we are talking about. So I'm positive, like Vetle said. However, I both hear and feel and follow Torkil on some of the core challenges from the EU and that side, but that is something that we will discuss further now together with the authorities also. So I'm very happy to have Torkil to bring some juicy perspectives also on that matter further into the debate.
Yes, then we will give the industry players the opportunity to think ahead. What do you think will happen for the next 1 or 2 years, and what do you think will happen with adoption, for instance, 1 year from now? Maybe you could start, Tuk.
Yeah, I think the whole stablecoin is going to be interesting when you see how some of the largest bank in Europe has gone together to build one. I might disagree with Torkil about his thoughts about any stablecoin that's not USD is going to die. But I think the market will tell, because I think it's very different type of markets that we are working in. One thing that Europe has been very good at is regulating itself and securing that its own identity is saved. So I do believe that the Euro stablecoin will have a use across, for example, the banks, especially when we see how the central banks has been talking about this type of wholesale back office stablecoins instead of retail stablecoins. That being said, I think in the next 1 to 2 years, you will begin to see institutionals, this time for real, coming into cryptocurrencies, but not because cryptocurrencies are the goal. It's only a beginning for them. It's more about where the world now are going on the whole tokenization front, where you actually see Nasdaq talk about tokenized funds. They see about being trading, well, at least 24/6, not 24/7, and that's huge change compared to what we have now. But so I'd like to end my statement that being positive that the market going forward is going to be laid right now, and you will see the fruits of that labor in about 2 years.
What about your outlook then, Torbjørn?
So I think it'll be more of the same. It'll be less kind of euphoric and volatile than we've seen historically. Obviously, prices, don't get me wrong, prices are still going to fluctuate substantially. I think the stablecoin consortium models are going to fail. I think stablecoins as a back-end payment thing is something to discuss in back-end payment forums because it's not very interesting. It's nice, but I also think that the lack of documentation for file-based crediting of bank transfers in Norway, the presence of mainframes in our payment industry has nothing to do with the lack of blockchains. It has all to do with the lack of ability to switch out existing systems, and I don't see a bank consortium model changing this. It'll be the R3 2.0. The R3 consortium was when blockchain was going to revolutionize everything back in 2015. I think the stable coins that do succeed is the ones that truly bring something new, which is bringing the kind of the global permissionless payment flow that you primarily see with Tether, but you also see it with USDC, and USDC has made the genius thing of setting up an interchangeable non-European and European USDC so that they can have the MiCA approval and continue to be listed on European exchanges without the need for kind of reverse solicitation or some other workarounds, and at the same time not being fully dependent on Europe. So I think stablecoins, as in Tether and USDC, will continue to dominate. I think a lot of the consortium models eventually will fail. I think Bitcoin will continue to remain supreme, and the adoption will continue to grow year by year.
We are planning to go for a second panel quite soon. So, but also Torkel and Stig, you should be able to share some outlooks. Torkel?
Well, I'm extremely bullish on stablecoins from the perspective of the issuers of stablecoins, but I think they will be fully American-based, and I mean fully as in 99.9+%. I think Paolo Arduino is going to become incredibly wealthy, even more wealthy than he is today. I think Larry Fink in BlackRock is also going to add to his fantastic hoard of money. And tokenization of stocks might also continue to be might turn out to be a great thing. But in the grand scheme of things, it's just completely uninteresting. It doesn't move the needle at all from the perspective of actually increasing monetary freedom throughout the world, with the exception of maybe stablecoins giving access to dollars, which might be when you're stuck with a local shitcoin, dollars might be better than what your government provides you with. But I honestly feel like Bitcoin is at the crossroads. If Bitcoin doesn't improve price-wise, and if Bitcoin doesn't improve on the technical development and technical discourse side over the next couple of years, I'm not completely sure Bitcoin is going to turn out in the end the way we all thought it was going to be. So, I hope to be incredibly wrong on this. I hope to be ridiculed in 1 or 2 years' time. But I'm not so sure these days. We live in a Mickey Mouse continent with a Mickey Mouse regulator, with Mickey Mouse capital markets. Let's hope for Bitcoin to save us all, but I'm not completely sure.
Then Stig, have the last word in this panel. Bring it on.
Okay, thank you. I think what we see as crypto today will kind of transition more into digital assets. While you'll have crypto being kind of category under digital assets, you'll have stable coin, and you'll have a huge segment that is tokenization of a lot of stuff, real world assets, stocks, whatnot. And I think and this is also why I find stable coins is going to be why they are so interesting. As soon as when you have all the other stuff kind of on chain, it's like stable coins. Yes, I understand it doesn't move your needle because it's not exciting. It's not doing 100%. It's not doing 10 times tomorrow. But it's basically the carbon in this new digital finance, because every transaction is probably going to be using a stable in some way. So I think you'll see digital assets is what we're going to talk about. Crypto will be a category under it. Bitcoin is definitely going to be the biggest one out of them.
Thank you very much, Stan, for the industry panel that sort of proves that this digital asset space is getting wider and giving maybe several opportunities and more debates. So
Did you say wilder or wider, Morten?
Why? I said wider.
Wilder it is.
Okay, but not as wide as in the beginning. So thank you very much. And we will then continue with the tax panel. And for the people that are going to join the Nordic live event, it will start at 1 o'clock. So that is important both for some of the speakers here, but also, of course, for you in the audience. So thank you very much so far. Just a minute. But you're there, Magnus. You can maybe just.
I'm here.
So you
Absolutely.
can just start
get-
when you're ready.
Absolutely, if you get Marius on as well.
Yeah.
And Alan also.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about...
There we are.
Perfect. Welcome, everyone. And for the ones who hasn't been here already, we have also the pleasure of having Morten Søberg from the Bitcoin Policy Institute of Norway joining us here, and also Erlend Ringstad from Cryptosekken as one of the players who is trying to keep track of all the complexity of this landscape that we're going to talk about today. So our idea surrounding this one is based out on some of the policy working groups that we have at the Nordic Blockchain Association that we've heard from all over this week. And in Norway, we wanted to cover the areas of tax from little different angles. We already touched up on it from the survey that it is apparently not that few who is actually reporting compared to the total wealth that is being reported into the ecosystem. But as Marius also mentioned as a little teaser, we will have something called CARF, the Crypto Asset Reporting Framework, an international framework that we will have to follow the rules on in Norway, the Nordics, and also in the EU. I know several of you others have views on that one, and we would like to hear that one from Torkild's side, specifically also from the operational side of running an exchange and trying to be compliant with it. But also from the other side, like we have heard as Morten Søberg and the Bitcoin Policy Institute, who wants to look into maybe the usage of Bitcoin in general, is it right or wrong towards that we are to pay taxes on smaller private transactions, but also in general, as we are getting close naturally to the ecosystem of the joyful pleasure of handing on our annual tax returns. That also leads to some challenges that I think Alan could give us a couple of tips on the way. And on that other side, Marius is here to be able to hopefully answer some of these questions, as I know he normally does, and not only saying it depends or that we have the classic cases of other instances, but I know for sure Marius will answer towards what he can. So I hope we can have a freely speaking and a lively debate here as well. But starting off with you then Marius, I think it could be useful if you give us your, call it 2 cents of an overview of what this CARF or DAC 8 as it called in the EU is, and how governments are looking into that one.
Yes, I can try to give you a short brief on that. As you said, CARF is short for Crypto Asset Reporting Framework. That's a framework that aims to achieve crypto asset transparency through automatic exchange of information related to crypto asset transaction among participating jurisdictions, those tax residents engage in such activity. And for example, if a Norwegian person have crypto in Sweden and have transaction with crypto in Sweden, the Norwegian tax authorities will get information about that related to CARF. And CARF was implemented in Norway from January 1st this year, and we will get the first data from CARF next year for the year of 2026. And as well, Norway have to share data from Norway to other countries as well.
So that means in practice that exchanges and brokerages and players who is considered to be a CASP, a crypto asset service provider, just like you, Torkil, you have to comply with this framework. And it seems, call it maybe natural, maybe logic. It seems like it's call it a streamlined framework of how Marius, presents it here from the overview, of course. But in practice, how easy is it? Is it like we can just push a button and we will have all the data out and everything runs streamlined from users to governments, and we will have the full monitoring society, both for bad and good? Or how is this one in practice, Torkil?
Well, this won't come as a shock to anyone, but reality is always more complex than paper and theory. But with that being said, I find this whole Kaupr thing to be not the end of the world, to be honest. It has some problematic or slightly problematic sides, but I think in general, I think it's a reasonable thing to do. So, and what I find particularly nice about this, there's one perspective I find really nice about this, which I have to emphasize, and that is that Skatteetaten, the Norwegian tax authorities, has for several years been collecting tax data on Norwegians in what I would call a secretive and hidden way, and Kaupr brings this out to the open, and people can be actually aware that yes, the tax authorities are taking a look, they are collecting your data, and you should adjust your behavior accordingly if you're not being compliant. And that's good, I think, being open about these things. And then another comment from me here. So when we started our Kaupr implementation, we checked out this wonderful guide from Skatteetaten on how to be Kaupr compliant. So thanks for doing a great job with that, Marius. Or I don't know if you personally did it, but whoever did it on your side, thanks for that. But I had some questions because I saw in the specification for the tax declaration that we had to collect, I saw that we had to get the user to self-declare their personal identification number, their personnummer. They had to declare their address. They had to declare several things which we already knew. And I thought, this seems silly. Do we really need to do this? So I reached out to Skatteetaten, and I got an answer saying, yeah, this might be a bit silly, but you do have to do this. And I haven't looked into the precise details, but I'm pretty sure this is because of some rule from above, from OECD or the EU or whatever, about the declarations being uniform across countries. And to me, that highlights a very pervasive problem in Norway. We are blessed with pragmatic, competent, often competent, not always, but we're blessed with pragmatic institutions in Norway. But then we submit to this international leviathan called either the European Union or the OECD or something completely else that demands that we do certain thing in a certain way. And I'm completely sure that if we gave Skatteetaten the mandate to just get the pragmatic solution out the door, Skatteetaten will be more than competent enough to get that properly going. But instead, we're left with these small frustrating issues about having to double declare or self-declare information that we already know. So a bit of a rant from me here, but I think Kaupr in general is not the end of the world, but I think it highlights that our pragmatic and competent institutions are often controlled from above for no observable beneficial reason except this general vague notion of international cooperation. Yeah, my 2 cents on that.
You have a comment on it, Marius. I can just say that it's not Marius personally who has been behind Kaupr. It's a higher political ecosystem. But still, if you have a couple of comments before we will hear from Erlend here as well.
I can just say first, I can comment on the implementation of Kaupr. As Mange say, it's a political decision, but what I said, Torkil, is that I can't answer the question why you have to give the information 2 times related to the personal numbers, but I can follow up that after this panel, and maybe I can give you an answers, but I will check it out if that's the answer.
But from your side here, Erlend, you're also pretty familiar with, call it the crypto data in terms of the product that you guys are offering. How do you foresee that from call it the ecosystem side? Do you have any comments towards the operational side of Kaupr?
I think it's a good thing, especially for users that are only on one exchange. It can maybe sometime in the future we can see a solution for where the crypto transactions are pre-filled in the tax returns. But the fact is that very many users are using multiple exchanges, and Kaupr is not reporting transactions, it's just the totals in different groups of transactions, and that is not enough information to do the full calculations of the taxes. So it's I think Kaupr will mostly make it easier for Marius to pick out which individuals to open a case for and take out to control. So.
But is it this easy actually, Marius? Because from the Kaupr point of view, that's an international framework, a suggestion. It's not like per se written rules in stone. It's down to that you are having lots of different data fields. Different governments are collecting different data, and they're not, to call it, structured. So you can unfortunately not just press a button and then you have everything into your system. I pick up that it might be challenges from your side also of handling in itself. Would you like to share some views on, call it, that part?
Yeah, I can try to share some views on that part. And as you say, this Kaupr is an international framework, and we have to follow Kaupr as the international framework. But it's possible for us as well to have a framework or legislation in Norway for the Norwegian exchanges. That is something we can have on the side if we want to have our own legislation in Norway in the future, for example, where we can get more information or different information from the Norwegian exchanges. But at the moment, all of the exchanges are sharing information related to Kaupr. And as Alan said, that this is aggregated data on transactions we get, so it's not so easy to pre-fill this kind of data in the tax return. But we are looking into to use the information for example, as guidance, and trying to use the information to actually make it easier for a taxpayer to know that you have crypto and to actually get it in the tax return. Because what we see is that, for example, when you have the survey and then we talk to the users, a lot of the users say that we think that Skatteetaten already had this information. We thought it was pre-filled in the tax return. So just that we can actually tell that we know that you have had crypto, but you have to fill it in the tax return by yourself is a good start. And then we have to just keep working on to make it easier, and maybe one time in the future we could get some kind of pre-filling related to crypto assets. But that will not happen today, but maybe in the future.
Yeah, and as we hear more of, call it, the overview and the monitoring is getting more and more streamlined, we also see that call it crypto adoption in itself is growing. It's growing slowly. We heard from Torkil that he didn't have the strongest belief that we will run around and pay per se with Bitcoins overnight, naturally. But we see initiatives now going on, like, for example, at Gardermoen, at the airport in Oslo, you can actually now pay your tax-free goods with Bitcoin. Not going into the details necessarily of how many, back to Torkel's point, who has used that solution, but still, it's up there, it's running, it's a legal solution, it's a compliant solution, and if we add all of this together into, call it, the frameworks of what we're hearing here, it could then make, call it, complexity connected towards it, that you also have to pay your taxes based upon small transactions, i.e. you buy yourself a bottle of something or some candy and you want to use your Bitcoins, but still you end up with a tax nightmare in some matter. So this is where you, Morten, and the Bitcoin Policy Institute has been doing some lobbying and started initiatives on behalf of your members who has spoken the cases surrounding whether or not we should have maybe tax exemption on smaller transactions like in Germany or other countries that we are seeing.
Yes, to a certain extent, that's right. Perhaps it's timely to introduce some context here as well. If you go back to 1992, we had a major tax reform in Norway. The main components of which was that you increased the tax base and you decreased the tax rates. And it so happens that the finance minister has recently appointed a tax commission who is supposed to report back by the summer, with the objective then to try to lay the foundations for a new tax reform next year. And I think that's a very good opportunity to at least try to introduce some ideas regarding the tax incentives as far as Bitcoin use is concerned. And what's obvious is that tax incentives are important. And if you could make some headway as far as, for instance, capital gains tax exemptions for small Bitcoin transactions, that could, at least on paper, in theory, lay the groundwork for the use of Bitcoin as it was intended. That is, as a virtual coin used as the medium of exchange. Having said that, I think that 16 or 17 years after Bitcoin was introduced, it's fair to say that its use has been very, very dominated by it functioning as some kind of speculative storage of value. But the greater picture, after all, is that Bitcoin is some kind of monetary orphan, right? There are no important institutions, political parties, etc., advocating for the interest of Bitcoin. And that's why it's really important for, of course, BPI, but also this ecosystem that has emerged in Norway so far to contribute to knowledge, information about Bitcoin in particular. And I also hope to see TradFi, traditional banks offering Bitcoin-related services due to the fact that you have, as has been clear today as well, quite an impressive amount of interest in Bitcoin in particular, I think. But so you have an obvious demand side, I think, that so far has not been met by a corresponding supply side. And I hope that we can also contribute to some changes in that regard.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to point the question directly towards you, Marius, because that's not on your table at the tax authorities to change tax laws or others. That's up to politicians. And this is where Morten has done a great job on behalf of the Bitcoin Policy Institute to try to bring the message further, at least in the ecosystem. So we will follow that one. But regardless of whether or not we will have a tax exemption on Bitcoin or other cryptos for smaller transactions in the future, what we know is the fact that we will have to pay our taxes for this tax year for sure, and we are also getting close there. So since we have Alan and also Marius on here, I think it would be useful for the viewers here if you guys could give us your 2 to 5 cents on the importance of what is points that is good to be aware of this year, and how to call it structure your reportings in a nutshell. So I could just start with you, Alan, and then we could hear from Marius after.
Yeah, I think it's the same as every year. You have new users discovering that there is a tax on crypto, and they have to do calculations and reporting. And for each year, it's the same thing. Some of the old guys, they know what to do, and that group is growing larger. So, yeah, many discovered this for the first time this year. And also Marius has been hard on the typewriter the last few months. So he has sent out, I don't know how many letters, but there's a good amount of reporting from earlier years that now Skatteetaten has set aside, and that is also giving us some extra action this year.
Absolutely. So, Marius, could you also tell us a little bit, will, for example, the tax authorities host any webinars or event like you have done previous years also this year to inform users more in detail of how to do the reporting correctly?
At the moment, we haven't planned any webinars yet, but it could be that I can't guarantee that we will have any webinars in April, for example, but maybe in the later this year, maybe we can have a webinar or a conference like last year. That could be, but will be no webinars now before the tax return is going to be presented. And what we can see that it's really important to start with the taxes on crypto early, because a lot of people have a lot of transactions. Alan can maybe say more about this, but we see that many start in March or April, and that could be too late if you have a lot of transactions related to crypto. So I think a tips from us is that you have to follow up the taxes on crypto through the years, so you can have a control over your transactions, so you don't get a lot of work in April or March when you get the tax return from us.
Absolutely. So regardless of you have gone to Torkil and Bare Bitcoin and acquired a Bitcoin and sitting still, you need to report it for the wealth purposes. If you have joined into Morten's portfolio of exotic traveling and paid your duty-free goods with Bitcoin, you should then maybe go down to Alan again and use Crypto Seconds tool to get aligned in terms of whether or not you have had a capital gain or a loss on the crypto you have spent. And like Marius said, at least have a focus on it, because normally if you have done a little bit more advanced crypto trading than just buying one crypto and sitting still, then you normally spend more than 1 day. We are talking months normally in order to get a full overview. So the complexity lays there. But again, Alan and Crypto Second, they have a great tool where you can extract data from the different exchanges and merge it in. But still, it's a focus area. So I think as the end note of it, Marius, we're more than happy also from the Nordic Blockchain Association side to see if we could put up some events together and bring clarity all together out in the market. So thank you a lot, guys, for sharing your views of some of the tax both challenges and opportunities that lays there out in the market.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Are you with us, Morten?
Yes,
No,
I am.
Are you preparing the next session fully?
Yes, and just 3 minutes from now, we are then doing the Nordic Grand Finale, where we are presenting and discussing all the findings from the different countries. And this is a separate live event, both on LinkedIn and on YouTube. So you have to find that link. It has been shared a lot of different times, both on LinkedIn and X and on YouTube. And you also, but you can also look into Kaupr, the landing page on Kaupr. There, right now, the Norwegian broadcast is on top and it's still live. But just under there, you will find the Nordic one. So you will then be able to follow then also on the Nordic thing. But maybe we should also tell people that we are not finished with all types of insights, Magnus. We are also looking into something happening after the Easter.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we are moving forward, like we have said on some of the other live streams for Denmark, Sweden, and Finland, that we will also carry out the survey in the Baltics, where we will cover Latvia, Lithuania, and also Estonia. And next week, we have a conference coming up in Riga in Latvia, which is called the Unblock Conference, where we will present the high-level findings from the Baltic survey and compare it to the Nordic ones there on stage. So I have the joyful honor of opening Reine's conference there and presenting these numbers, while the following week after, we will go into detail on all of the findings from Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, and have online live streams, just like we've had for all of the Nordics. And we're happy to see that we have the chief commander himself here with us, Reines. would you like to share a couple of words on the Unblock conference and why Nordic people should rather climb down from their mountain cabins and get on a flight to Riga?
Yes, thank you, Magnus, so much. We are very happy that we are extending this survey outside of the traditional Nordics, right? And also bringing it to Baltics already for a second year in a row, for sure, together with you, Magnus, and your team. So the findings that we have seen so far are quite interesting, and thank you for this opportunity also to follow. I have listened to a couple of things that you have your findings. For example, yesterday from Finland, quite unique ones. So good takeaways, I would say. Besides all that, yes, next week we are organizing one of the major conferences in Web3, crypto, and blockchain sectors in the region, called Unblock. So we expect to have around 2,500 participants. We have 97 speakers confirmed from different companies all across the globe. So could be quite interesting. In addition to that, we'll have Latvian regulator participating in the conference, Latvian FIU chief participating in the conference. And also, Magnus, you will be presenting the findings from the Baltic survey, right? So good opportunity to network, good opportunity to meet the Baltic community as well. So in case you, those who are listening from Nordics, if you have a chance to join, please do. Unblock Europe, unblockeurope.com is the web page. And also, I'm happy to offer for the speakers you have here, I'm happy to offer invites. So if somebody wants to come, please let me know. Magnus have my contacts, so happy to invite you to Riga. And then for those who wants to buy tickets, we have ticket code, discount code as well. It's LBAA30, LBAA30. So yes, you're welcome to use that as well. So hope to see you in Riga next week. And then after that, enjoy the holidays. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Andreas, and thank you very much also, Magnus, for sharing the next step of crypto surveys, also in the Baltics after the Easter. When it comes to this Nordic part with Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland, we are wrapping up then with the grand finale now in a couple of minutes. And it will be on a separate channel. But remember also that tomorrow all the servers will be available. And there are also a landing page where you can see all the recordings and you can see articles from all the different live events. So thank you very much for following us, and we'll see you in another stream.